Sinister dark spot appears overnight. Doctor's exposed revelation haunts everyone involved. Jenna woke to a scream. It wasn't coming from her two kids. No, the shrill noise pierced through the morning silence, dragging her from the clutches of a restless sleep. Something was wrong. The sun barely sank its orange fingers on the horizon as she scrambled out of bed, her heart racing. As she stepped outside, a crowd gathered around her front lawn, their whispers slicing through the dawning light like knives. There it was, a pitch-black spot, pulsating like a dark heart, right where the grass met the earth. It seemed to breathe in and out, a sinister rhythm that filled her with dread. The neighbors exchanged glances, their eyes wide with confusion, fear creeping in like tendrils of smoke. "What is it?" Jenna asked, her pulse quickening. No one answered. Only finger-pointing and hushed murmurs about contamination and disease arose, paralyzing her with anxiety. Then Dr. Wells stepped forward, his dependable smile a mask on the chaos surrounding them. "Nothing to be concerned about, people," he declared, waving his hands dismissively. "Just a natural anomaly." Jenna wanted to scream. This was no ordinary phenomenon. The neighbors' faces told all their fear was palpable, almost contagious. Panic ripped through the air as Dr. Wells, once a bastion of stability, veered into denial, igniting Jenna's fears. If he wasn't worried, should she be? But something twisted in her gut, telling her that his facade was just that. Days fell into a blur. Jenna returned to her grueling night shifts, the laughter of her children replaced by an unsettling silence. Sam, her usually effervescent son, grew disturbingly withdrawn. His bright eyes dulled, and Jenna's heart sank whenever she caught him staring at that spot. She felt trapped, terror wrapping around her like a vice. The town she loved now felt like a ghost town, its charm twisted into an echoing dread. Meanwhile, the whispers morphed into accusations. Friends turned into strangers, filtering their panic onto her. "Have you seen Sam? He's changing," they would mutter with narrowed eyes, their expressions dripping with suspicion. Jenna felt the walls close in, suffocating under the weight of their fears. She had to know what was happening. Lurking truths lay at the heart of their community, secrets buried so deep she could feel them clawing at the surface. The night swirled around her as she confronted Dr. Wells, her fists clenched with a determination that nearly shattered her swirling doubts. "What do you know?" she yelled, the darkness closing in tight. He narrowed his eyes, revealing something sinister lurking beneath that practiced smile. The doctor wasn't just a casualty of paranoia, he was part of it. Anxiety twisted in her chest, a much darker horror unfolded one night. Sam collapsed, rattling out whispers of the darkness. Jenna snapped into action, racing through the cobblestone streets, shadows flickering beneath the sickly streetlights. She was driven by desperation, fueled by a primal instinct to save her child, her heart pounding in sync with the darkness she was about to face. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." She burst into the empty street, but silence swallowed her cries. Where were her neighbors? Eerily still, the neighborhood seemed to pulse with a tension as thick as fog. As she pressed on, fear clawed at her, urging her to turn back. But the urge to save Sam propelled her deeper into the night's blackened embrace. With every step, the memories of trust began to fray. The darkness wasn't contained, it seeped into every fiber of her life. She needed answers. She had to confront the truth about that horrible spot, the doctor's betrayal, and the impending danger that threatened to consume them all. Just when she started to connect the dots, the ground trembled beneath her feet, and everything she thought she knew shattered into an uncertain abyss. What lay ahead was a nightmare yet to unfold, and the shadows were closing in fast. Jenna felt the tremor beneath her as a sharp crack sliced through the night, making her stumble. Was it the ground itself? Panic surged, and she grabbed onto a nearby tree, steadying herself against its rough bark. Goosebumps prickled her skin, and she squinted into the unforgiving darkness, the sinister spot now visible in the distance, pulsing with an unnerving life of its own. "Sam!" she called, voice cracking, desperation clawing at her throat. The silence that hung in the air seemed to mock her. The night felt alive, pulsating with a dread she couldn't quite name. Shadows lurked at the edges, and for the first time, the streetlights felt inadequate, flickering like the last candle in a storm. Rushing toward the spot, she could see faint silhouettes of figures blurred by darkness. Was it her imagination, or were they people? The vague outlines shifted and moved in rhythmic motions, almost like a dance or a ritual. The chill in her bones made her skin crawl. Were they connected to the spot? Were they somehow drawn to it, like moths to a flame? "Hello!" Jenna shouted. She could taste the metal tang of fear on her tongue, hear her frantic heartbeat pounding in her ears. The shapes halted, moving with a sluggishness that made her gut twist. One figure stepped forward from the mass, and her breath caught in her throat. It was Dr. Wells, his face obscured by shadow, but his calm demeanor was unmistakable. "Jenna," he said softly, a gentle cadence that felt eerily out of place. "You shouldn't be here." His words were smooth, almost soothing, but his eyes flickered with something darker. Terror clawed up Jenna's spine as she realized that his smile seemed sickly as it twisted, reminiscent of a predator preparing to pounce. "Where is Sam?" she demanded, fists clenched, heartbeat hammering in her ears. The figures hovered behind him, watching like spectators in a tragic play, waiting for the inevitable. "He is safe, for now," Dr. Wells replied, tilting his head slightly. But his eyes betrayed him, flicking toward the dark spot, filling Jenna with dread. "He has chosen to embrace the darkness." Her heart stilled. Chosen? The very thought was unfathomable. "You're lying!" she screamed, desperate fury surging. "He would never choose this." "Oh, but the darkness reveals, it reveals the truth, Jenna." His voice slithered around her. "It shows who we truly are, what we're capable of. Sam sees it. Don't you want to understand?" Each word slithered deeper into her mind, beckoning her closer, taunting her rationality. The pulse of the black spot grew stronger, sending a wave of nausea roiling in her stomach. "No." She stepped back, shaking her head violently. She couldn't let the darkness claim her son. But the ground began to vibrate again, this time with a cacophony of whispers, hot breath swirling around her. The figures grew restless behind Dr. Wells, their intentions unreadable, shifting closer toward her. "Join us," the chilling chorus rose, an eerie blend of voices intertwining and echoing. Jenna could feel their presence tightening around her, the air thick with suffocating dread that in that moment, a flicker of hope sparked within her. Sam needed her, and she couldn't let this darkness consume him. Summoning every ounce of will, she turned and tore away from the hypnotic pull of those black eyes and the sinister whispering that seemed to cling to her skin like a haunting fragrance. Running back down the street, the whispers became furious echoes, chasing her, clawing at her resolve. Jenna burst through her front door, slamming it shut behind her as if that could lock the darkness outside. But what she didn't know was that the darkness was already inside, lurking in the very corners of their home, slithering through the shadows. Jenna's breath was ragged as she called Sam's name again, the split in her heart growing wider, uncertainty gnawing at her. What had Sam chosen? As she turned toward her son's room, the door creaked open, revealing an all-encompassing darkness that made her scream. In that moment, Jenna realized she had only just begun to confront the horror that threatened to pull her entire family into its abyss. What awaited her next in that suffocating darkness? And what crucial truth would reveal itself when light dared to return? The darkness in Sam's room crawled around Jenna, an almost sentient shadow that seemed to breathe as she stepped into the threshold. She could barely see, but the air thickened with an oppressive weight, pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. "Sam," she whispered, voice trembling. The silence answered her, heavy and suffocating. She strained her eyes, heart racing, trying to catch a glimpse of something, anything beyond the void. Then she heard it. A soft sobbing, muffled and distant. It cut through the silence like a knife. "Sam!" Panic surged anew, and she lurched forward, nearly stumbling over the toys scattered on the floor. "Mom!" A fragile voice broke through the darkness. It was him. Relief flooded her, but it was quickly drowned by the ominous whispers that filled the room, swirling around her like a dark mist. She pushed it aside, fighting against the encroaching dread. "Where are you?" "Here." In the dark his voice was tiny, almost lost to the encroaching gloom. "I can see it, Mom." "See what?" she urged, each word spilling out in a rush. "Please, let me help you." There was fear in her tone, an unsettling tremor that reflected the turmoil clawing at her insides. The shadows. "They're talking to me." His words sent a chill up her spine, as if the air around her was turning frigid. "They say," he hesitated, and she could hear him take a shuddering breath. "They say I'm special." "No, sweetheart, you're not special. You're my son, and I need you to come out of there." Each plea dripped with desperation, the tremors in her voice growing stronger. "Mom, I can't." The room trembled as a shout-like whisper swelled around them. "Join us, join us." The voices in the darkness were growing louder, more insistent. They were weaving a toxic rhythm, echoing like a chant. Jenna felt her hold on reality slipping. "Get away from him!" she screamed, the words raw and frayed. She stepped further into the room, squinting, fighting against the walls of blackness that pressed closer, like teeth waiting to bite. Suddenly, the darkness swirled as if alive. A figure emerged, shrouded in black, and it held something, a glint of silver. Her breath caught. It was Sam's toy, his favorite, the one he'd carried everywhere. A puppet that had always seemed to have a mind of its own. "Mommy," Sam's voice came like a whisper, painful and choked. "It's playing games. It wants more of what?" She shot back, though deep down she feared she already knew. The figure laughed, a long, spine-chilling sound that echoed through the room and reverberated in her bones. Jenna felt her heart racing, the fear squeezing her throat. "More souls, more connections," it announced, voice smooth and sugary, yet filled with a sinister edge. "No!" she yelled, panic edging over into rage. "I want to let you take him." She felt the walls of the room closing in, the shadows grasping for her, reaching out like slender fingers. The laughter persisted, drowning out her thoughts, their taunting echoes swirling and rising until it felt like she was drowning in despair. "Come closer, Jenna." Dr. Wells' voice, too, crept back into her memories, a whisper tangled in the cacophony. See the truth, embrace it with every fiber of her being. She fought against the onslaught of voices, the pull of the dark. "Sam!" she called, tears welling up, tracing paths down her cheeks. "I'm here. I'm fighting for you." In that moment, something snapped within her. She reached for the encroaching shadows, determination flowing through her veins like fire. "You will not take my son. Not today." But as her voice broke the air, the darkness roared back, filling the room, choking out her scream. The laughter became a deafening chorus. She felt herself being pulled into the void, the shadows latching onto her, their grip cold and unforgiving. "Join us," they commanded, drawing her further into their embrace, and as she fought to break free, a single thought consumed her: what other gruesome truths about the darkness awaited her in this horrifying battle to save her son? What price would she have to pay to protect him? The oppressive darkness surged around Jenna, dragging her deeper into a vortex of despair. She fought against the pull, feeling the shadows coil around her limbs, clutching at her like icy hands. "Sam!" Her voice echoed, desperate and raw, but only laughter responded. It vibrated through the air like a living thing, filling every corner of the suffocating room, Jenna felt her courage waning, her resolve bending under the weight of unseen horrors. The figure holding Sam's toy loomed closer, its features obscured but palpably sinister. The whispers grew more distinct, a clamoring tide of voices, each one intricately binding her heart in knots. "Join us, embrace the darkness," they chanted, and she staggered under their spell. The floor felt unsteady beneath her feet as memories flooded her. Sam giggling, the light of day glimmering in his eyes, his laughter chasing away the shadows, but those days felt like they belonged to someone else. "Fight it, Jenna!" A fierce voice in her mind screamed, but it was drowned out by the shadows enveloping her heart. "What will you give up?" The figure taunted, the glint of silver in its hand dancing in the blackness. "More of yourself. More of him. Leave him alone," she cried, trying to reach toward Sam's voice, which seemed to waver beyond a veil she couldn't breach. "You can't have him." The laughter shifted to a low hum, vibrating with a dark promise. "He was chosen, Jenna, just like you. Together we will be powerful. Together we will transcend the mundane." The idea snagged in Jenna's brain like a jagged shard of glass. Chosen? How? Her thoughts began to swirl dangerously. "Mom, please." Sam's voice, laced with urgency, cut through the fog. "Don't listen. They want to trick you." The figure grinned, a wicked caricature of a smile. "You see, he knows, but does he know everything?" The darkness twisted and pulled at her sanity, unearthing fragments of truth buried deep within her. "You felt it, haven't you? The connection. The darkness loves you, Jenna. It craves more." A deep shiver coursed through her. She had felt at moments where fear and dread twisted into something almost seductive, a call that lingered like an unwanted echo in her soul. "No. I want to succumb. I want to let you take him." With a scream that drew from the depths of her despair, Jenna lunged forward, heart pounding. She was met by the cold touch of the shadows. It was like stepping into ice water, dread and isolation wrapping around her, trying to snuff out the last flickers of hope, but pain ignited her determination. "Sam!" she shouted again, with newfound purpose, "Hold on to me." She fought back with everything she had, pulling on the cord of love that linked them. The atmosphere shifted, the laughter faltered, shadows flickering as if uncertain. Sam's voice cut through like a beacon. "Mommy, I believe in you. We can beat this." Time seemed to stretch painfully as she reached out, pushing against the darkness. She felt something stirring within, power, anger, hope, and surged forward. But with each inch, the shadows clawed back, determined to break her spirit. "Join us," they hissed. "You cannot resist forever." Just as the pull threatened to tear her apart, Jenna found her footing. "I am not afraid of the dark," she shouted, voice ringing with defiance. The shadows recoiled. A moment of hesitation, a crack in their resolve. But as she pressed closer to Sam, the darkness swirled violently, retaliating against her resolve. That laughter again, more furious now, echoing like thunder. "Then you really don't know the price of defiance." Before she could grasp the meaning, a rift of light opened briefly, illuminating a hidden truth that shocked her to the core. What she saw sent a jolt through her soul. "Mom! Look out!" Sam's warning shattered through the chaos, but it was too late. The room exploded into darkness again, and with it came a deafening silence. In that heart-stopping moment, Jenna's mind whirled with terror. What had she unleashed? And more frightfully, what was waiting on the other side of the abyss? Jenna's heart raced as she was swallowed by the black void. Time and space seemed to collapse around her. She grasped at evanescent memories, Sam's laughter fading like smoke. "No, no," she gasped, fighting against the engulfing abyss, her breaths shallow and quick. Suddenly, a soft, cold breeze grazed her cheek, laced with the scent of decay. A chill crawled down her spine, threatening to paralyze her. The void was not just emptiness, it pulsed with a life of its own, a monstrous heartbeat echoing around her, urging her to succumb. Out of the nothingness, a figure emerged, its silhouette distorted and grotesque. Jenna squinted against the oppressive dark, struggling to catch a glimpse of its face. The shadow flickered, revealing glimmers of sharp teeth, a mocking grin that sent waves of nausea crashing through her. "You were right, Jenna," it whispered, voice slithering through the air like a snake. "You and the boy are chosen." "Shut up!" she screamed, each word a battle against despair. She felt weak, as if the shadows were siphoning her strength, her resolve teetering on the edge of oblivion. "Let him go." The figure recoiled, a flash of irritation rippling through the darkness. "You think you have power here?" It laughed, the sound echoing in her ears, drilling into her mind. "Power lies in understanding, and you understand so very little. You've always been drawn to the dark, haven't you? You crave it. No. I crave my son." Jenna shot back, but the shadows whispered secrets in her ear, muddying her thoughts. What if it wasn't just fear that drew her? What if she longed for something deeper, something she couldn't fully comprehend? "Together, you can become something extraordinary," the voice coaxed, wrapping around her like smoke. "Transcend the mundane, join us." The dark buzz intensified around her, vibrating through her bones. Just when it seemed Jenna would lose her grip, a crack split the atmosphere. Light shone through, illuminating a vision that stole her breath. She saw Sam, his bright eyes wide with terror just beyond the darkness, trapped but yearning to escape. "Mom!" he shouted, reaching out, fingers curled and stretching toward her like flowers breaking through frost. "Sam!" Panic shot through her as she extended an arm, desperation flooding her veins. If she could just grasp that small spark of light in that moment of distraction, the shadows lunged, sharp tendrils biting into her mind, pulling her back into the depths. "You've made your choice, Jenna." The dark figure shrieked with glee. "No. I will not lose him." The surge of defiance burned bright. She imagined the warmth of her son's smile, the sound of his laughter. She clung to that memory, drawing strength from it. An explosion of light erupted from within her, flaring outwards like an inferno. The darkness shrieked, clashing against her brilliance, fizzling and recoiling. But it was fleeting. As the shadows melted away, they left behind an even more terrifying truth. A shriek echoed, not from the dark, but from beyond it, a sound of pure anguish. Jenna's heart sank as she understood, this abyss didn't just want her. It wanted Sam too. "We can't fight it alone, Mommy." His voice trembled as it melted into the static of despair. "Help me." Jenna felt a sudden jolt, the ground beneath her shifting. She was teetering on a precipice, the remembered warmth of her son fuzzy and distant. There, looming behind her, was the dark figure, now towering and furious, summoning the shadows with a chilling command. "Come back to us, Jenna, this is only the beginning." With a newfound urgency, Jenna grasped the fading light around her. What choice did she have? The risk was palpable, but the dark had already poisoned her thoughts, it whispered her deepest fears. What if saving Sam meant losing herself? As shadows surged around her, trapping her in their wicked embrace, Jenna realized she must confront the darkness head-on and risk everything. She prepared for an insurmountable battle, knowing that her next choice would seal their fates forever. In that pulse of despair, a flicker of hope ignited within her. But in a world steeped in shadows, could hope be enough? A sudden screech shattered the air, followed by an unsettling silence, one that hinted at something much worse to come. What would they unleash next? And did Jenna have the strength to face it? The shadows churned violently around Jenna, cocooning her in a frigid grip. It felt like being submerged in icy water, her body aching, fighting against the suffocating weight. Sam's image fluttered just out of reach, painted in hues of desperation and fear. "Mom!" His voice sliced through the thickened air like glass, breaking her concentration. "Stay with me, Sam!" she shouted, the sound bouncing off invisible walls, echoing back in a cacophony of torment. The darkness hissed, twisting the space around her, contorting until it felt as if 1,000 whispers bit into her thoughts. She slammed her eyes shut, desperately restoring her focus. She was not alone in this. She couldn't let the shadows win. "Do you hear him?" The figure taunted, its voice caressing the edges of her sanity. "He's south, so close, yet so far away. You can't have him." The darkness felt alive now, swirling and undulating like a living entity fueled by pain and fear. Jenna's heart hammered in her chest, pounding a rhythm that echoed the sinister heartbeat of the abyss. As she braved her eyes open again, she saw faces forming within the shadows, horrific, twisted images of those who had been trapped here before. Their hollow eyes stared out at her, mouths moving in silent screams that pierced her soul. "Let him go!" Jenna screamed, her voice resonating with fear and defiance. "I want to let you take him." "Foolish woman!" The figure shrieked, its form expanding, overwhelming her senses. "You think you can command the darkness? You are merely an offering, an appetizer before the true banquet begins." With every word, the shadows grew darker. Jenna felt them clawing at her mind, trying to rip her apart from the inside. But there it was again, Sam's voice, faint, flickering amidst the chaos. "I believe in you, Mom. Please." Jenna took a breath, a sharp gasp that ignited something deep within her. The flicker of hope swelled, rekindling a spark amidst the whirlwind of despair. Even as the shadows wrapped tighter, she took a step into the abyss, shaking off the fear like a wet coat. "I'm coming, Sam." Then, the dark entity laughed, a sound so unsettling that it clawed at her insides. "Come, come, Jenna. I'll show you how deep the darkness truly goes." With that, the ground beneath her rippled, and she plunged forward into the pit, the void enveloping her completely. Jenna hit the ground hard. Pain radiated through her body as she lay there, breathless. The air was thick with malevolence. She was in a cavern, its walls pulsating with shadows. She could hear whispers, taunts, each word wrapping around her like chains. "You'll wish you stayed away." "No." She shouted, bolting upright. She had to fight this. She scanned the darkness, searching for a sign of Sam. Sam! Farther back, she caught a glimpse of movement. Her heart leapt at the sight. A small silhouette emerged from the black, and for a moment, a rush of exhilaration flooded her veins. It was him. But just as quickly, doubt shattered her optimism. What if it wasn't he, Sam? What if it was another trap? "Mommy!" Now, she heard him clearly, the desperation punctuating his plea. "Please, help me." Jenna sprinted toward the voice, driven by pure instinct. Each footfall echoed like thunder, reverberating off the walls. Shadows flickered wildly, clawing at her, whispering doubts, unearthing dark memories. She stumbled, falling to her knees as a shadow lashed out, grazing her arm, a sharp pain igniting like fire. "Don't listen." She screamed at herself, trying to shake the claws of despair. "I can save him. I have to." Suddenly, the shadows peeled back, retreating like the tide, revealing an archway that glowed ominously, a door waiting to be opened. A chill washed over Jenna, and she hesitated. Was this the way to Sam? Or a pathway to deeper madness? A flash of light flickered in her mind, his laughter, his favorite toy, the warmth of their last hug. She remembered the way he always held her hand so tight, as if that alone could keep the monsters at bay. "My beautiful boy," she whispered, stealing her resolve. Just as she reached for the door, the laughter returned, mocking, taunting. "You don't know what lies beyond this threshold." Jenna paused, dread clawing at her insides. "What if I don't want to know?" she murmured, breath hitching in fear. The laughter deepened, echoing through the cave like a promise of torment. "But you will, and once you step through, nothing will ever be the same." Jenna stood frozen, heart raging, unsure whether to retreat or forge ahead. Would opening this door lead her to Sam, or to a darkness that would consume them both? The shadows coiled tighter, anticipation crackling in the air, waiting for her choice. What would she decide? And as she placed her hand on the threshold, a terrifying thought crept in: what if Sam was already lost to it? Jenna's breath caught in her throat as her hand hovered just before the threshold, a tangible fear unfurling in her chest like a caged beast. The shadows pulsed, whispering unholy promises, taunting her resolve. "You'll find only despair on the other side," they hissed, threading through her thoughts like venomous serpents. The moment stretched, pregnant with tension. She had come this far, hadn't she? Now, more than ever, she needed to know. "Sam!" she shouted, determination hardening her voice. "I'm coming." With a swift motion, she stepped through the archway. Everything changed. The damp, musty air turned crisp, electrified, as Jenna found herself in a new chamber. This one was vast and open, lined with dark stone, and a looming sense of dread settled like a shroud. In the center, a flickering light pulsed softly, an eerie glow that beckoned her forward. "Mommy?" Sam's voice echoed again, a soft plea that hung in the air, both close and impossibly far. It led her. Each step felt heavier, weighed down by unseen hands gripping her ankles. The shadows danced nearer, encircling the light as if guarding a secret. Jenna swallowed hard, a lump forming in her throat. "Hang on, Sam!" she shouted, forcing herself onward despite the mounting darkness that sought to pull her back. As she drew closer to the light, she could see it more clearly. A small, ornate pedestal stood in its center, cradling what seemed to be a dusty, old lantern. But it was not merely a lantern, it pulsed with energy, thrumming like the heartbeat of something ancient and terrible. Was it a beacon? Or a trap? "Mom! Please!" Sam's voice pierced through the tinged shadows, hope tangled with fear. Jenna lunged forward, reaching for the lantern. As her fingers closed around the cool metal, a jolt of power surged through her. The light flashed brilliantly, forcing the shadows back with a deafening roar, but with that power came a price. The darkness rippled, reshaping itself violently. Faces emerged, twisted and tormented, every soul lost to the shadows, crying out in unison. "You should have stayed away." They wailed, their hollow eyes boring into her life's heart as if peeling her very essence apart. Jenna staggered backward, the lantern almost slipping from her grip. "I will save him!" she screamed, the noise collapsing around her like a wave. "I want to let you have him." The lantern pulsed harder, and she felt its energy racing through her veins, but it was accompanied by an overwhelming rush of despair. "He belongs to us now," a foreboding voice echoed, exploring her darkest fears. "You cannot save what's already lost." In the wake of the entity's words, the shadows recoiled for an instant, scattering like rats. It was then Jenna noticed a figure, not Sam, but another child. A girl, pale and frail, thinner than a whisper. She darted past Jenna, her desperate gaze locked onto the lantern. "Don't!" Jenna cried, the realization hitting her hard. This shadow thing was a collector of souls, drawing in the innocent to keep their anguish alive. The girl stopped, glancing at Jenna, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and understanding. "Help me!" she gasped. But as Jenna went to reach for her, the shadows surged, encasing the girl in a dense web of darkness. "No!" Jenna cried out, feeling the weight of failure crash down on her shoulders. "Help her! Or save your son!" A sinister voice purred, echoing through the chamber like a death knell. "Choose wisely." Torn between the two, time slowed. Jenna's heart raced, a visceral panic clawing at her chest. The shadows swelled around her, demanding she make a choice that could mean life or death for both innocent souls. As the lantern dimmed, her fingers trembled against its cool surface. Would he, or would she, be lost forever? "Mom!" Sam's voice faded to a haunting whisper, and the shadows closed in tighter, a physical pressure stopping her heart. The ground trembled as the walls pulsed with dark energy. She had to act. Would she choose the innocent girl desperate to escape, or focus her efforts on her son, who might be slipping further away? Jenna took a deep breath, steeling herself for the impossible choice that lay ahead. The shadows lunged, eager to devour her hope, and she felt time slipping through her fingers like sand, and just before the darkness consumed her vision entirely, a chilling whisper echoed, "Your decision will change everything." What would Jenna choose? The answer would reveal horrors yet to come. Jenna's heart hammered as the shadows swirled around her like a tempest. The air thickened, each breath an effort against the weight closing in from all sides. Time stretched taut, and she felt the pull of both souls. Sam's desperate cries wrapped around her heart while the frail girl reached out with trembling fingers, eyes glistening with unspoken fears. "Choose." The voice dripped with malice, sending shivers crawling down her spine. She wanted to scream, to demand a different outcome, but her voice felt strangled by the darkness. The lantern flickered erratically, a warning of the chaos festering beyond. Jenna glanced toward the girl, her delicate features marred by anguish. She could see reflections of countless lost souls mirrored in those terrified eyes. A gut-wrenching choice stood before her, and for a moment, she hesitated, paralyzed by indecision. "Mom! You have to help her." Sam's voice surged through her, a lifeline amidst the encroaching despair. But it was already too late. The shadows lunged, clawing at her with myriad tendrils, hungry to drag her into their embrace. "No!" Jenna screamed, pulling her attention back to the lantern. The flickering light steadied for a beat, then surged, brightening with blinding intensity. The air crackled as if drawn from a storm, rekindling her resolve. She had to act. With a sudden rush, she chose. "I won't let anyone else suffer." Jenna hurled herself towards the girl, extending her hand just as the darkness enveloped the child. Jenna's fingers brushed against the cold skin, her contact igniting the lantern with a furious blaze. The burst of light chased the shadows away momentarily. For a heartbeat, Jenna felt a glimmer of hope. The girl flinched, but Jenna held firm, pulling her out of the abyss threatening to swallow her whole. "I won't abandon you," she cried, thrusting the lantern closer. Its glow expanded, revealing horrors frozen in the dark, the faces twisted in agony. "You've chosen the wrong path," they howled, merging into a chorus of despair. The shadows writhed as if hurt, retaliating with a violent lurch toward her. The ground beneath Jenna trembled, the darkness retaliated with seething fury. Suddenly, Sam's voice cut through the chaos. "Mom! I'm right here." The sound rolled over her like a tide, sparking her determination anew. She couldn't lose Sam, not after everything. Whatever was happening, they would face it together. The frail girl shrieked as shadows clawed at her, fighting to reclaim their prize. Jenna felt the pull of the lantern's energy course through her, desperately trying to maintain focus. She closed her eyes for a moment, channeling all her love into the light. "We're getting out of here," she shouted, conviction igniting her voice. With one final push, she gripped the lantern tighter. Its glow exploded, radiating warmth and clarity, slicing through the shadows, revealing their fleeting forms. Jenna thrust her hand forward, pulling the girl toward her, drawing both souls into a protective cocoon of light. "Let them go," Jenna shouted, her voice reverberating against the stone walls. "Your grasp can't hold them." A bone-chilling silence followed, the shadows recoiling, bewildered by her defiance. But Jenna felt the darkness shift, feeling their power intensify in response to her challenge. Glancing at the girl, determination filled her gaze. "We can't stay here. We have to go." The lantern pulsed again, growing brighter as if it recognized their need to escape. Jenna grasped the girl's hand with fierce resolve, knowing they might still be trapped by the darkness. "Together!" she shouted, spirit merging with the light, but just as the darkness began to fray, the walls around them trembled violently. The chamber was shifting, and Jenna realized their escape was not guaranteed. "Hold on!" she yelled, fear flooding her voice. Just then, the shadows made one last desperate attempt, swirling around the pedestal as if trying to reclaim their prey. The toll of the choice settled heavily on her heart, echoing the gravity of her decision. Could she save them both? Time was slipping away, the darkness closing in once more, ready to consume everything. As her grip on the lantern tightened, Jenna felt the chilling whisper return, echoing in her mind, everything has a price. Would they escape or be chained to the darkness forever? The choice now held consequences she couldn't fathom. In that moment of impending doom, Jenna dared to hope as the lantern burned like the dawn breaking through a long night. But what lay ahead would reveal the true nature of that hope and the darkness that could swallow them all. Jenna's hand shook as she held the lantern, its warmth pulsating in tune with her frantic heart. The darkness trembled, momentarily recoiling as if afraid of the light, but she could still hear the frantic whispers of the shadows, tiny, mocking voices that grew louder with every breath. You can't escape us. You'll pay for your choice. The ground quaked beneath her feet, rocking the fragile balance like an unforgiving sea. The frail girl clung to Jenna's side, her wide eyes reflecting both fear and a flicker of something else, hope. Jenna could not afford to let that flicker snuff out, not now. Keep moving. She yelled, feeling the words tear from her throat amid the cacophony. Together they moved, the lantern their beacon, casting a trembling circle of light in the consuming darkness. Walls blurred and shifted around them, the chamber warping like a funhouse, each turn unpredictable and frightening. Jenna's mind raced. They could find an exit, she just had to look. The shadows had begun to coil around her ankles, lapping at her like hungry waves. Jenna! Sam's voice surged again, more frantic, more insistent. Mom, look! They dashed forward, but she could see it, a vast chasm opening in the stone floor ahead, like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. This was no sanctuary. The shadows whispered promises of despair from its shadowy depths. Don't look down! She cried, desperate to pull the girl along, adrenaline coursing through her. But as they reached the edge, Jenna stumbled, the lantern flickering in her grip. The light dimmed, and with it, the grasp of the shadows became suffocating. Desperation clawed at her throat. No! This can't be how it ends. In that instant, the lantern flared with blinding urgency, a response to her fear. It was as if the world paused, and she stood on the precipice of a revelation buried deep in her heart. We can do this. We have to jump. She urged, steeling herself. The girl looked at her, confusion swirling in her eyes, but Jenna pressed on. This is our shot. Trust the light. With a shaky breath, she stepped backward. Then, in a furious push, they leapt, the world beneath them shifting as they fell into the unknown. The shadows screeched, their symphony of rage rising exponentially, almost drowning out Sam's calls. At that moment, Jenna felt the rush of air around them as if time itself had slowed. She sensed the warmth of the lantern, glowing fiercely, pulsing with life even amidst despair. Hold on tight! She yelled, wrapping her arms around the girl, the three of them suspended between feeble breaths and raw terror. Then, as if time snapped back into place, they hit. The ground erupted in a violent force. Jenna cried out as pain jolted through her body, the lantern clattering against the stone as darkness came crashing down, blending and blurring until nothing felt real anymore. Everything was chaos. The shadows were everywhere, merging with a cold laugh that taunted her courage. But deep within, Jenna felt a flicker of hope, a reckoning. The lantern had survived, the light still fought even as the darkness encroached. Slowly, Jenna opened her eyes, blinking against an unnatural light. She was no longer in the chamber, but in a foggy twilight. The air around her was heavy with an unfamiliar stillness, an eerie calm that left her breathless. The girl lay beside her, the shadows retreating to the edge, murmuring of failures. Where are we? The girl whispered, pulling Jenna back from the brink of panic. I don't know, Jenna replied, horror creeping back in. This new place felt just as ominous as the last, filled with the remnants of shadows forgotten, but a feeling in her gut told Jenna it was not over yet. The lantern, now dim but still flickering, radiated an unsettling pulse, almost alive. Then, above their heads, a figure loomed in the fog, a dark silhouette against the twilight, watching. Jenna's heart thumped violently. Was it friend or foe? Who is there? She demanded, voice steady despite the fear knotting her stomach. The encroaching darkness thickened, the shadows threatening to return that moment. Jenna realized the lantern's soft glow was no longer just light, it was a tether to her past, the price of her choice yet to fully be revealed. And just like that, an answer was coming, but would it bring salvation or deeper damnation? Jenna blinked at the figure emerging from the fog, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The lantern flickered beside her, casting eerie shadows against the hovering outline. Every instinct told her to back away, but her legs were cemented in place, tangled in a web of worry and fear. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice strained but unwavering. The figure stepped forward, clarity slowly breaking through the mist. It was Dr. Wells, his face revealing a mix of concern and something darker lurking beneath the surface. "Jenna," he whispered, and the sound sent chills racing down her spine. "You've come far, but the darkness has a hold on you. It's trying to take my son," she shouted, desperation splintering her voice. "What have you done?" Dr. Wells's expression darkened, and for a moment, the shadows around him seemed to deepen. "It's not just me, Jenna. The whole town is a part of this darkness, you're all tied to it through fears and choices." "Choices?" she echoed, the weight of the word pounding in her ears. Before he could answer, the shadows stirred, swirling around them, forming a tempest of agony and whispers. Jenna squeezed the lantern tighter, feeling its warmth seep into her palm. "What is this place?" she demanded, stepping closer to him, unwilling to let him slip away in the crowding shade. "This is the boundary," he said, voice dropping to a near whisper. "You've crossed into a realm where lost souls linger, a place where choices are weighed, and sacrifices counted." "Sacrifices?" Jenna felt the tremor in her chest rise again, threatening to crush her under its pressure. "What are you saying? What do I need to give up?" Dr. Wells studied her for a moment, sincerity breaking through his usual calm. "To gain what you hope for your son, the unbound joy of life, you must confront the darkness in yourself. Only then will you truly defeat it." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. She had not only been fighting for Sam, she had been battling against every doubt, every fear that churned within her. The shame, the guilt, the anger pulling her into the very depths of despair. With renewed clarity, Jenna inhaled sharply, emotions colliding within her like a storm. "I want to let him go." She turned her gaze back toward the girl who had been clutched to her side, understanding dawning in her mind. "You don't need to choose us. We can save everyone." "Yes." The girl chimed in, her fragile voice shimmering with hope. "Light can pierce through any darkness." But just as they spoke, the shadows stilled, their whispers forming into a cacophony of rage, the atmosphere thick with their palpable disdain. "No more light!" They shrieked from all corners, their growls vibrating through Jenna's bones. "You will join us." Jenna's heart raced, and for a second, panic squeezed at her throat. Becoming one with the darkness wasn't an option. "Sam!" she yelled, clutching the lantern closer. That flicker of hope ignited again like a bullet train. "I am not afraid of you. You can't have my family." In that moment, she made a choice, a promise to dive into the storm rather than let it swallow her whole. "I accept my darkness, but only as part of my journey," she shouted into the swirling chaos. "I won't let it chain me. I will light the way for others." A furious roar erupted from the shadows, crashing against her resolve. "Then you will embrace your suffering." They howled, the anger vibrating through the ground. The figure of Dr. Wells retreated slightly, watching intently as the ebb and flow of dark energies sought to envelop her. "I will share my light," Jenna declared, voice resolute. "I can be a beacon instead." Boldly, she stepped forward, illuminating the lantern with every ounce of courage she harnessed. The glow expanded, pushing against the darkness choking her surroundings, revealing the lost souls caught in anguish. "Together, we can break the chains." The shadows shrieked in desperation, frantically combing the edges of the light, recoiling as if burned by the brilliance. The faces of the trapped souls joined Jenna in a rallying cry, "We want freedom." They echoed, their voices overlapping into a unified chorus of yearning. Jenna felt their longing surge through her as she concentrated on the glowing lantern, pulling the light deeper, sending it rippling outward in a wave. Every whispered fear and every negative thought that had held her captive erupted into symphonic resolve. The shadows began to unravel. "Let there be light!" she screamed, feeling energy channel through her like never before, invigorating her veins, igniting her heart. The curtains of darkness tore open, shrieking discordant wails as they washed away, and Jenna felt the true weight of fear lift from her shoulders. Light streamed from the lantern, encompassing her like a silken cocoon. The bewildering shadows dissipated into the ether, their cries fading into whispers. Around her, she glimpsed Sam and a multitude of children, freed souls, wading through the diffusing darkness toward her, faces filled with love and resilience. "Mom! You did it!" Sam rushed forward, wrapping his small arms around her, warmth flooding her as joy erupted inside her heart. A bittersweet laughter spilled from Jenna's lips. She was not lost or alone, nor was he. Together, they had transcended the clutches of despair, their bond stronger than any darkness. Dr. Wells stood just beyond, the remnants of shadows clawing at his edges but unable to breach the radiance. "You've done the impossible," he murmured, something resembling awe illuminating his eyes. "You saved them all, including yourself." But Jenna only smiled, glancing at the girl who also reached for a spark of hope. "Come on," she called, her voice ringing proud and sure amidst the rising dawn. "You're not lost anymore." As they stepped toward the light, shadows turned to mist, twisting into the first blush of dawn. The sun broke through, scattering remnants of darkness across the floor like fading memories. Jenna held her son tightly, looking into his bright eyes, forever grateful for their shared journey. The battle had been fought, light had triumphed over darkness. And finally, they took their first steps back home, ready to embrace both the joys and the shadows that life would throw at them, knowing they would always face it together. Now, don't just step away. This is the moment you need to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Only true fans understand how crucial it is to keep the journey alive. Go on, make your mark.